We all have that one person who seems to consistently drain our energy, push our buttons, and sabotage our relationships. Yet somehow, we just can't help but find ourselves inexplicably drawn to them over and over again. This isn't just a quirk of fate, but rather a deeply ingrained psychological pattern that reveals a profound truth about our unconscious desire for validation and connection. Think back to that one toxic relationship in your past, the one that left you shaken. Yet somehow, you found yourself repeatedly reaching out to the very person who hurt you the most, as if somehow they were the only ones who truly understood you. Today, we're going to delve into the rarely acknowledged yet eerily familiar dynamics behind this phenomenon, to uncover the unseen forces that drive us to repeatedly attract and chase the very people who are toxic for us. The reason we're drawn to these toxic individuals often lies in our own unconscious insecurities, a desperate attempt to fill a void within ourselves, a cry for attention that we've long neglected. Deep down, we crave validation and acceptance, but our distorted perception of what it looks like often leads us to pursue people who are ill-equipped to offer it, leaving us further isolated and unsatisfied. The fear of being alone is a potent motivator, driving us to cling to anyone who'll tolerate our company, even if it means tolerating their toxicity, a Faustian bargain that we rationalize away with stories of love and commitment. Unbeknownst to us, these toxic relationships serve as a twisted form of self-therapy, an opportunity for us to confront and work through the dark corners of our own psyche, but also a potential pitfall of becoming entrenched in patterns of self-deception. Our ego, that vaunted bastion of self-worth, is often the greatest obstacle to change, refusing to surrender its cherished illusions about the other person, about us, or about the nature of the relationship itself. By externalizing our own flaws and shortcomings onto others, we unwittingly relinquish our agency and control, allowing the toxic person to manipulate us like puppets on strings, further entrapping us in the cycle of toxicity and codependency. As we continue to dissect the unconscious patterns that lead us to seek out toxic relationships, it's essential to acknowledge that our behavior is often rooted in a desperate attempt to fill a void left by childhood trauma, rather than any genuine desire for love or connection. What appears to be a pattern of poor life choices, in fact, often stems from an insatiable need for validation, one that was neglected or distorted during our formative years, leaving us perpetually reaching for approval from others in destructive ways. We frequently fall prey to romantic partners who exhibit traits eerily similar to the very individuals who hurt us in our past, a phenomenon born from an unconscious pursuit of familiar patterns, rather than genuine attempts at healing or growth. Unbeknownst to us, our attraction to people with a history of manipulation and emotional unavailability may, on the surface, seem like a bizarre choice, but when examined closely, reveals a deeper, more primitive desire for control, one that originates from feelings of powerlessness and disempowerment. In an effort to shield ourselves from further emotional pain, we often erect walls of self-deception, convincing ourselves that our choices are justified, and that we're merely learning and growing through the experience, rather than confronting the cold, harsh truth that our behavior is perpetuating a cycle of suffering. The ego's inherent need for self-preservation and self-aggrandizement often leads us astray, seducing us with promises of a true love or a soulmate who will finally put us out of our misery, when, in reality, we're merely trading one painful, unfulfilling situation for another, doomed to repeat the same patterns ad infinitum. Here are 6 insightful spoken sentences for the section we chase, the very individuals who exert control over us, because deep down, we're desperately seeking validation to counteract the internal void that has been created by our own self-doubt. This paradox of seeking control through external validation is an illusion that perpetuates our feelings of powerlessness and keeps us trapped in toxic relationships. Behind every desire for control or dominance lies a desperate attempt to alleviate the crippling anxiety that stems from our own sense of inadequacy. We often overlook the fact that our attraction to individuals who push us away or make us feel small is, in fact, a cry for attention, a craving for the very validation we can only get from people who are willing to engage with us, even if it's on their own terms. When we pursue people who exert control over us, it's not that we're masochistic or crazy, but rather that we've become so adept at denying our own desires, our own fears, and our own emotional vulnerabilities that we can't even see them anymore. The reason we keep coming back to these toxic relationships is not because they're familiar or comfortable, but because they offer us a fleeting sense of relief, a momentary reprieve from the crushing weight of our own inner despair. When we attract people who are toxic for us, it's often because we're unconsciously drawn to the sense of validation and ego-stroking that we don't receive from ourselves, and we'll go to great lengths to convince ourselves that this validation is worth sacrificing our well-being for. We deny the reality of our situation, and we attribute the dysfunction in our relationship to external factors, rather than acknowledging that the source of our unhappiness lies within ourselves and our own unconscious patterns. The truth is, toxic relationships often serve as a proxy for our own unresolved fears and insecurities, and the fact that we're drawn to them suggests that we haven't yet found within ourselves the courage to confront and overcome these internal demons. We seek out toxic people because they offer us a sense of control, a sense of agency, when in fact, we're often unwittingly surrendering our power and autonomy in the process, and our self-deception convinces us that it's the other person's fault we're so unhappy. One of the most insidious aspects of toxic relationships is the way they can activate our deep-seated need for attention and affection, causing us to overlook or downplay even the most egregious behavior, and convincing ourselves that our partner is the only one who truly understands and accepts us. In many cases, the people we're drawn to are reflections of the parts of ourselves that we've denied, suppressed, or judged, and the toxic dynamic we create with them is a desperate attempt to reconcile these warring aspects of our own psyche, often ending in self-destruction. Here are 6 insightful spoken sentences for the section Breaking Free, Uncovering the Path to Healthy Relationships, and a Deeper Self-Understanding when we repeatedly find ourselves drawn to people who drain our energy and erode our sense of self. It's often because we're desperate to fill the voids within ourselves, and we incorrectly assume that someone else can do the job for us. We may have been conditioned to believe that we're not worthy of love and happiness unless we're with someone else, making it difficult for us to accept and appreciate our own worth without external validation. It's a classic case of self-deception, where we convince ourselves that we're looking for love, when in reality, we're merely searching for a reflection of our own self-worth. Deep down, we're terrified of being alone with our own insecurities, so we'll cling to anyone who promises us a sense of belonging, even if it means sacrificing our own well-being in the process. The underlying fear is that if we're not desired by someone else, we'll have no value, no identity, and no sense of purpose. By continually attracting toxic partners, we're inadvertently perpetuating a vicious cycle of self-sabotage, one that only serves to reinforce our deepest insecurities and keep us trapped in a never-ending cycle of pain and struggle. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery, as we uncover the hidden patterns that keep us stuck in toxic cycles. Now that you've gained insight into the unconscious forces that drive us to seek out what's not good for us, remember that awareness is the first step to freedom. I'd love to hear from you. Like this video, share your observations in the comments below, and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of human psychology.